and welcome to Coffee and Card. It's March 2024. I'm just getting my wires out of the way so that they don't impinge on my video. It's week one and we're doing or using the Enduring Beauty bundle, which comes with a set of dies, the stamp set obviously, and 5 stencils. I'm only using 3 of them today. And this is the card we're going to be making today. So, I was wondering whether I put my butterflies in, and I have. Okay, so this is the one. So the masks, you can stamp and then use the stencils to blend and then die cut, or you could just use the stamp and colour in, or you can actually build an image just using the stencils or just using the dies. So it's a really flexible set, which is what drew my attention to it first of all. So let's get going. Right, so the first thing we do, so now I used on this one Crumb Cake, Lost Lagoon and Petal Pink. However, as most of you know, I do in-person classes in Sale in Cheshire. It's in South Manchester, and Lost Lagoon Ink is in that class tomorrow, so it's already packed, so it's gone. So I'm going to try Coastal Cabana, because my first one, Lost Lagoon, right, okay, I haven't got that, I'll go to Pool Party. But unfortunately, Pool Party's it's quite a subtle class tomorrow. So I'm going to see what Coastal Cabana looks like. I've just realised I've got my pink, as you can see, pink blending brush out. I haven't got my green, and I haven't got, no, it's only my green one I need, and I cannot see it for the life of me. That's it. Green! There we go. I suppose Coastal Cabana's a bluey green, isn't it? Have I got a more bluey green? Right, this is an old blending brush, but I'm looking at the roots look like it's more bluey green, so we'll get rid of that. I mean, to be fair, I don't have 50 blending brushes. I use them, as you can see, that's my pink one. So that does a lot of pinks. Right, so in here you have some twine for your bow, and I've gone quite shabby chic here, and then you've got some Crumb Cake, a couple of pieces of Very Vanilla, and then a piece of Petal Pink as well, and then a card base. Okay, so those are my ones I did earlier. Let's put those over there, and your envelope of course. So I'll pop those over there, and we're going to start with one of the pieces of Very Vanilla, because that's what we're going to stamp our big stamp on. Okay, so pop those all over there. So, and I thought I'd actually stamp this with the Crumb Cake, because I thought it would be less brutal, if you like, than if I'd stamped with the black, which is my sort of tend to go to for what's the word I'm looking for, outline stamps. I tend to go Memento Black, because quite often I'm using, because with Memento Black you can either use alcohol blends or water-based inks. Gosh, brain's not functioning today. Right, so I've got that positioned in my stamping platform, and I'm just going to ink it up. It's quite a big stamp, this, so you're going to need either your stamping platform or the biggest stamping block, clear block that Stampin' Up do, or a large stamping block. Okay, and just spreading that. Got my little whiteboard marker, cleaner, which is what I use to spread the ink on there. Isn't it a beautiful detail stamp? That magnet's just holding it off a little bit there. There we go. Right. Okay, so clean that off. So I've 2 cloths today. I've got my wet cloth, which I'm cleaning my stamps with, but I've also got a dry cloth next to me here that I'm going to clean my brushes with. They're both the same colour today. So it's just a multi-purpose microfiber cloth, and I'm using that to clean my brushes between colours. I'll between applications or when I've finished. You don't want to get your blending brushes wet until you've finished, because wet blending brushes don't blend. Right, okay, so here we are. So I'm going to start. So each of these stencils is numbered, and today we're using number 1, number 2 and number 3. There you go, 1, 2 and 3, and that will get, you can see they all line up there together, so with their little notch like Stampin' Up have started doing at the moment, which is really useful. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out where the top is. Are we thinking that's the top? Yeah, we are. I'm lining that up with the flowers, so that is the top. So I've got this the right way up. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to fix this in place with a couple of post-it notes, because it's helpful, because you don't want to be looking for the top every time you change your stencil. So I'm just holding that in place. This stencil's quite easy. There's a very obvious top and bottom, but some stencils, we were doing a class a few weeks ago now where we were doing blending brushes and stencils, and we blended in white and then we washed it and blended it in blue, and if you didn't do it, if you didn't remember which way up it was, and it was a square stencil, so there was 8 different ways up it could have gone, so it was really difficult to work out. So I put a T on the stencil, and if you just glued your card to the grid paper and left it there, then there was a pretty good chance that you were going to be able to find it again. Okay, so repeating with the... So I've just lined up the flowers here because we're just going to do the background, the solid colour of the flowers. So I'm getting my Petal Pink ink pad. Now, we are creatures of habit, all of us. And when we're stamping, we use the middle of the... Gosh, there's quite a lot of pink on here. I'm just getting the rest of the pink off this. When we're stamping, we use the middle of the stamp pad. So when I'm blending, I use the edges. Okay, you can even tell on this one there's more ink at the edges. Okay, so I'm just going to take off the worst. I'm actually going to pop a little bit more on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in over the vanilla card, or the very vanilla card, and just lay down my first layer of colour. Okay, the best way to do this by far is to just layer it up until you're happy with it, because if you put too much ink on, you end up with blobs, and also you can always add more, you can't take it off. Okay, so I'm just gently tapping, taking the worst off on my post-it notes, and then going in and blending in circular motions, holding the actual handle of it rather than doing this. You don't want to be doing this because that is how you get blobs and things. Okay, so just softening, and then in we go again, just slowly building up the layers. And because we're using a water-based ink on the crumb cake, it will soften it a little bit, but it's not smudging it, because you're dry brushing really, not wet brushing. So it will have an effect on the crumb cake ink, but it's not. See, I'm not listening to my own rules. Look at that finger. Patience, Linda. So, as I say, so it'll, of course it's moved, hasn't it? Oh no, it hasn't, it's just the way the ink's going on. Right, okay, so we're just slowly adding a little bit, another layer of ink until you've got the colour you want. So I am looking for fairly subtle, because I'm coming back in again with the pink, with the same colour to do the next stage. Okay, there we go. Now, before I remove this, I'm just going to make a little notch, not a little notch, a little mark where the notch is. Okay, so just a little mark there, just as a guide to where to position the next one. Right, so let's lift that up. Yeah, you see, beautiful. See, it looks very subtle. It's much better. These are better stencils because they are white, so we can see through them, than the old brown ones, because we couldn't see through those. So you get an idea of the colour, but really until you've taken it off, you can't really see. So next one, so position it roughly on the notch there and then rotate to find your leaves. Okay, just twiddle it about till you've got them all. And you should just about be able to see the outline, the stamped image. There we go. I'm happy with that. So again, I am just going to position that in place, stick that down, and closing the ink pad, which I should have done before. And let's get the Coastal Cabana. Now, as I said, I'm going to be a bit more careful with this because it is a brighter colour than I used before. And I'm looking for a subtle look, not a very dark look. So I'm just going to take some of that colour off and then gently go in and add some layers. So there are 2 more stencils to this set, but they are the details of the leaf and some extra details for the flower, which I felt I quite like the subtle effect of leaving those out, so I've not used them. But there's nothing to stop you using them at all, and I'm sure I will be using them at some point in this month's cards. I think I might be going slightly too subtle here. Let's just see. Just want to get those top ones a bit greener. As I said before, I'd rather have the too little than too much, because you can always add a bit. If you're not happy, you cannot take it away. And of course, with having the big bright light over the top as well, that's going to skew things slightly as well. So I'm just trying to get them all to be sort of the same green each. But again, this is a handmade project. We are looking for beautiful, we are not looking for perfection. There we go. I think let's just see that one, just taking that one to the edge of that leaf there. I just think they've still got a bit of very vanilla. And the way you get up to the edge of these stencils is, you know, you circle each way, and occasionally you can sort of brush out to the end there to get those end points. Probably worth doing that, particularly on these leaves. There we go. So those are those leaves coloured in. And if I then lift that off, I'm just taking the ink off on my dry paper. Oh yes, well that's worked really well, hasn't it, considering it's a completely different colour. Right, and now I'm going back to my petal pink. I've done the cardinal sin of leaving my crumb cake open. Any ladies who come to my class will be horrified by that, because I really do go on about it. But I just want to make sure you don't get any extra ink on your card. So now we've got stencil number 3, and again I'm going to the notch, and then I'm just moving it around till it's covering up and it's lined up on the flowers. And what I'm actually looking at is the edges of the leaves. You don't want any of the green showing, so I'm lining up on the edge of the leaves as best I can, because I can't get over the top. Right, I think I'm happy with that, so we'll go back in. And again, we're coming in with the pink. And this time we do need to be layering on quite a bit of colour, because we are blending with the same colour. So we're putting a second layer of the same colour on, but this time we really do want to get some depth of colour. Let's do it on a different post-it note, because you want it to show up against the original colour. Do you know, that's not quite lined up. I'm just going to move it slightly. Yeah, you're going to have to come up as well. Just see the green of the leaves. And providing you've not done too much, you can easily come back in and do this. So and it is worth taking those few minutes just to make sure that you are properly lined up. Are we going with that? Just that little one there is still showing, just sticking out a wee bit. There we go. Right, take two. Okay. And as I said, we're trying to add quite a bit of pink now. Still need to soften your colour on your post-it notes. I'm doing it on my post-it notes so I can reuse my grid paper. Obviously, if you're using your own grid paper, you can do it as much as you want on your own grid paper, which is where I wouldn't normally do it, but I tend to make a sheet of grid paper last a month's worth of YouTubes. Not just one. See, it didn't. Just softening it up there first. So I'm just gently layering up the colours. And I am pressing on a bit with my finger here, as I say, because I do want to be able to get a reasonable amount of ink onto the image. Okay. Let's see. How are we doing? Just going to lift that corner off. Still a bit too subtle. I'm going to do some more. Squiggle, 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 on we go. Okay, we keep building up until we're happy. Let's see. Yeah, that's much better. You can really start to see the detail on this one, so I'll just wipe off my brush. There we go. You can see the different pinks. Right. Okay. And there we are. So I hope you can see the different levels of colour on that. So how pretty is that? So I'm now going to die cut that, or I'm going to find one I made earlier. So the next stage is to die cut that and then put it to one side. And then we're going to do our layering, these layers here. So I am going to get these two. So you've got a crumb cake card base, and then you've got another piece of crumb cake. Now, if you haven't got the kit and you're wanting the measurements, so that's an A6 card base. This is actually 10.5 centimetres by 14, because I'm going to use the decal rectangles to cut this out, and the widest one is 10 centimetres, so you do need that extra. So we're going to do this on the crumb cake and on the petal pink. Right, So, and we're going to use the big stamp, which I've lost. Oh, I know where I put it. Right, so this time, because I want to move it around, I am going to put it on the big stamp block. So I'll just take it off my platform carefully. And get my massive block, which it is massive and heavy. You can get, other manufacturers are available. I mean, I do love the Stampin' Up blocks, but this one is particularly heavy. So if you've got troubles with arthritis and things like that, you might be better looking for a slightly thinner, lighter one. Right, okay, so we're going to start off with the petal pink, and I'm basically going to stamp the whole of this with this stamp. Okay, and again, I'm using the petal pink to give you a self-coloured image. Okay, and I am just going to pop that in the corner. There we go, see? And then I'm going to do it again. And I'm just going to pop that there, just so it's on that edge. And then I am going to squeeze in here. Now the middle isn't going to show because it's going to be covered. So I am overlapping a bit in the middle, but not at the edges. Although it doesn't matter if you overlap. There we go. So just there I've overlapped, which, it looks fine. And then I just need to stamp on these bits here. So trying to find where is there a sort of bit where that little bud would fit in. I'm thinking, yeah, let's do that. So I've just gone in, so the bud's in there, and there we go. Okay, so that's covered that in stamping. And then we're going to do exactly the same, but this time in crumb cake. So any browns or pinks would work with this. Also, for doing your self-coloured stamping like this, you can always use Versamark. It will take a bit longer to dry, but it gives the same effect. Okay, so same again. I'm going to come in and stamp. So come in at the bottom. There we go. With these big stamps as well, it's much better if you bring the ink to the stamp rather than the stamp to the ink. And also, if you notice you've got ink on the side, just wipe it off. Okay, so this one I am going to do there. Oh, I gave you the measurements for the crumb cake before. The petal pink's the same. So now in your kits, those of you who don't have the deckled rectangles, I've actually already done your I've die cut them out, so you're just stamping on the die cut. If you've got those dies, then it's the can't remember which ones I've used. I'll get them out and have a look. I thought I'd finish, but big gap there. I think the pink one's actually the large one, and the brown one's the second largest. Yeah. Also, in my class, I do use them a lot. So I will have a look once I've finished, and if it isn't what I said, so the pink is the largest and this is the second largest, I will pop it in the comments. Right, and drop you a note. Those of you who've got the kit. Right. Okay, so pop this down again. Right, so the next step would be to die cut these two out, which I've already done. So here we are. Yeah, so the pink is the largest and the crumb cake is the next one down. Okay, and you can see they look really nice together, those two, with this pattern on. Right, okay. So now if you wanted to make it even more shabby chic, what you can do is use, I think I used on this one, I used pecan pie, and I just blended round the edges. So that one's got pecan pie blended around the edges of the card front and the edges of these two pieces. This one I'm not going to do that because I like a subtle card. I'm not massively keen on shabby chic. I know. So I'm actually going to do this one without the blending. Okay, so the first one just sticks on like that. Also, I think it can be quite time consuming, shabby chic cards. So, you know, it's something you can go and do by yourself. You don't need me to show you how to do that, just adding colour onto the edges. Okay, so I am just popping that one on the front there. Yes, I am the right way around. This one on top. And then I'm going to get, so in this one I've done the other way. So it's just, with it being smaller, it only just hangs over. And then I'm going to get my dimensionals and add this on. So quite a simple card. And I think you can do as much decorating as you want. So I'm just going to put quite a few on here because it is quite a large piece. And if you are sending it through the postal service, you want it to arrive intact with no soggy bottoms, soggy middles rather, not soggy bottoms. Right. So, and then just put a little row of them down the middle. Another one there. Another one there. There we go. Right, that's quite a few for me. And then I'll show you how I did the bow. So the reason I did my blending with the pecan pie was I started using the crumb cake and it wasn't really showing. And so I went to the pecan pie, which gave it a much richer sort of aged look than the crumb cake did. Right. Okay, and then this is just going to go on top like that, and then we're just going to add some butterflies, which I know I had a minute ago. There they are under the stamp set. Right, so I think I've gone a big one and two little ones, which I'll do the same. Got a big one here, oops, which is running off. So just put the big one just there. I love these brushed brass butterflies. I think that's well and truly stuck there. So the sticky dots on the back of them are the same shape as they are, so they're really stuck down. So I do love them. We've got a new catalogue coming out in April. Hopefully these will survive and we'll have them for another year. We have had them for a couple of years already, so they do change these things to Stampin' Up. Oh, and the sun's come out. When did the sun come out? Right, okay, sorry about that. You can see this card here. So the final thing is I made a bow, which I actually hadn't realised I'd already made. So basically what I did was I took the linen thread I've given you. Do you know, this is off another card. It is. My cord is here. Look, it's slightly different. This is the Basics Baker's Twine, which I actually did the same with. So let's undo this knot of string. So basically what I've done is, if they're too wrinkly, you can run them on your bone folder and that straightens them out. Just need to find a bone folder. So right, so I folded it in half and then you've probably got far more than you need. You have got far more than you need, and then you just fiddle until it's the size you want. There we go. Do you know, I did it twice, that's why there's so much. So let's go again. So I know there are ways of getting all these loops on a bow, and I have tried. There's ways of doing it around your fingers, ways of doing it around bow makers, and I always get myself in a right little knot with them. So I just use multiple layers of string. You know, if there's a cheap way of doing it, Linda will find it. Right, okay, so I'm just neatening that up. So we've actually got 4 strings to this bow. Okay. I know my friend Mary will be like, Me and Julie Sutcliffe had twine to everything. Okay, so there we go. So we just pull that and manipulate. I used to think that there's these magic people who just tied a bow and it was perfect every time. And I now know these people do not exist. What you need to do is practice a lot. I overdid that glue there. So just put a spot of glue there. Wiping it off my hand. And I am going to position my bow there. Just hold it down a second to grab. It will take a little while to dry. And I'll get my big scissors and just trim off these tails. So I'm leaving them quite long. I think it just suits this, so they're longer than the actual loops. Oops. And there you go, that's today's card. I will check back and make sure the sunshine hasn't been on here too long. So the joys of stamping in front of a window. Anyway, enjoy, and I shall see you all next week. Bye.